Hello and welcome everyone to another exciting session of Platinum Watch. I am your ever-present Dungeon Master, Walkman EXE. As always, I am joined by the real stars of my show. In this case, just a singular star. We have Storm Stage 13 playing Merrick Gilder.
I'm all by myself. Help!
As I established in the last video, we are doing something a little bit differently. I am kind of shifting the focus as the party wanted to kind of split up and tackle multiple objectives. What we're going to go ahead and do is just shift focus and perspective every session to allow characters to kind of pursue their individual goals as well as like to bond if they wish to, and for a lot of like moving parts and pieces that don't necessarily need to be shown in an episode to kind of get handled. In this way as well, each person has like an individual like dedicated episode to them or like the group they're traveling with, which allows them to kind of like get a little bit more of a showcase that they wouldn't normally have in like the normal collective where everybody has a say or vote, but no one necessarily shares the spotlight for too long. So on that note, we recapped everything last session pretty concisely, but I'll still ask, like, you know, like what does Storm remember of last session?
Oh boy. So last session. Hold on, I gotta reply to a message. Damn it.
Storm in recording, can't talk.
Yeah, basically. Red wanted. My office is in the basement, so Red wanted to know if he can come down to use the laundry machine. And there goes Bailey. When last our tale was told, as I recall, the secret came out. Merrick told the inner circle about their bullshit plan and why they're all stupid and why Merrick is the king of fools. Rita took it about how you'd expect, taking a leave of absence to sort her shits. The group had a fun little bonding session where everyone confided in each other. We all had some fun little growth moments. Scribe on. We all went to the demi-plane that Merrick, Trapit, and Avok have. Did some digging around there to leave a note for Trapit saying, "Hey man, so they know." And but then we went to Yuza's demi-plane where we learned a little bit about her past. Merrick did some grim psychometry to see if he can get a vision to learn more. He did learn a little bit. Yuza scrying on her pseudo-father, I suppose. And breaking down and having emotions.
All right.
And that's all I really remember.
That's pretty concise. Yep, so, as the... And one thing I did say, I think, in the last episode, if I didn't, I'll say it now. During the next episode, which is going to be our Tala and Rando episode, we will probably do a bit, since everyone will be present, as it's on our regularly scheduled Sunday, we will be doing a bit of like a flashback to get to the point where everyone's like, yeah, we should all split up and tackle all these objectives. Yeah, we'll just like get a time rewind. You know, as Rando and Tal are sailing on a ship, it's like, so you're probably wondering how I got here. And we'll kind of cover that and give, like, the preface for how everyone is on their separate paths right now. But speaking of separate paths, Avok and Yuza have just set out very recently, teleported, actually, to Cragsy, specifically to the tower that Kokias holds, to begin their investigations of his tower, gather anything that it can resource-wise, as well as kind of go ahead and pick apart the city itself and see if they can recruit anybody to their cause that isn't, like, outwardly going to do bad shit. Rando and Tala have begun to sail on the open sea, heading to the Kefren Islands on Honestly, they could probably get there pretty quick. Like, that's one thing I'm gonna have to ask is, like, does Rando just tree stride? Because that's a thing I keep forgetting that druids can do. Which would also be a fast way of teleportation. Or they could use teleportation circles, because the Inquisition has those. So we'll ask what their mode of transportation is next session. But, Merrick, sole leader of the Inquisition, finds himself at the keep by himself, and has a singular objective that he wishes to kind of carry out. How about you tell me how Merrick decides, or comes to the conclusion that he needs to burn the token?
I feel as though Merrick would be alone in his office, twirling the golden coin in his hand, seeing the team he trusts the most with his life split up to tackle multiple objectives. Takes the coin in his hand, knowing that he needs to pull some of his own weight and get some shit done. Grips it tightly and thinks to himself, how the fuck do I use this?
As you think to yourself, how the fuck do I use this? You hear a sound like the chime of a bell. And as you kind of, like, open your eyes, like, what the fuck is that sound? You find yourself on a small dinghy with a lantern floating in the Astral Sea, the gold coin in your hand now gone, as a single Gith Zerai individual is paddling your little boat towards a tower that you are all too familiar with. You see standing atop a rocky outcropping floating within the nebulous infinite space of the Astral Sea is a large tower, bigger in size and scope perhaps than any tower fortification you have seen in the material plane. Despite being called the Lighthouse, as there is a large light glowing atop its very peak, it does not seem to operate in the way that a normal lighthouse does, which is to shine a path for ships to see the rocks and navigate their way around dangerous territory. Rather, it seems that it itself controls the very islands nearby and moves them to intercept any that would come approaching their domain with ill intent. As you see, like, behind you, there are a fleet of, like, Gith-Yankee ships that, like, are trying to kind of run you down or pursue you. And you watch as this, like, mass of land literally erupts through the infinite space around you to, like, sink one of the ships. And as they begin to veer off, other islands begin to move to kind of, like, close them in and, like, box them off, and they decide to break off their pursuit and flee.
Huh.
As the islands begin to move around to form kind of like a wall, pardoning off your approach, the ship you are being psionically piloted by docks very gently against the landmass itself, and the Gith Zerai doesn't seem to bother tying off the boat, as he just kind of, like, looks at you like, alright, here's your stop.
Merrick steps off, looks over to, like, so do I, like, tip you, or, like, kind of...
He, like, as you're like, so do I, he begins to paddle away and leave.
Alright, here I go, then. And Merrick starts marching up to the lighthouse. Can I quickly do a perception check, just to see if I notice anything around?
Yeah, sure thing. 1 second. I also just got a message.
So, because I didn't say I was looking with my wolf senses, I just rolled without advantage. But I rolled a second one just to see what I would have gotten. It's the same number, an 8 plus 3.
Yeah, as you look around with your eyes, first off, the Astral Sea, like, Normally, I again, this is just like my interpretation of the like domain itself. Simply because like it talks a bit about it, but I like the idea that it is just essentially like space. So as you kind of like look around, while there is like this infinite expanse of like this almost like dark purplish kind of it's this large expanse of like essentially like a space without any gravity or sense of time. No things really hold sway in the Astral Sea. Is the idea of permanence isn't something that holds true here. The only sources of light are cast by faint purple stars in the distance that shed various light through the domain itself, as well as various other forms of light source that are cast through the sea. The main area you're in now, mostly, though, however, is illuminated by a brilliant golden light coming from the lighthouse itself that seems to cast a warm glow in all directions, illuminating your path and making sure that the area surrounding you is visible.
Okay.
All right.
Merrick is just like, I feel like Merrick wouldn't be like as comfortable as say Kaz would be, and like.
Oh, Kaz would be losing his mind. He'd be giddy.
Merrick is much more like a simple person, so he's just like, what the fuck?
he's just like, gravity don't work right here.
Alright, endless expanse of nothingness. Alright, that's not haunting at all. Fuck shit.
Yep, so as you climb the stairs to the doors of the lighthouse, you notice that they are these ornate, just like regular oaken doors, carved with a various mosaic of events, with two golden doorknobs that seem to allow you to like turn and open the double doors.
Merrick knocks as he opens the doors. Hello?
As you knock and open the doors simultaneously, the second you knock, the doors begin to open on their own. So you just kind of give them like a little extra push. But as you step into the lighthouse, the first thing you notice is that even with the large scope of the tower on the outside, it is still vastly larger on the inside than it is the outside. As you are standing in the equivalent of, like, the Library of Alexandria. Like, you are essentially standing in a dimensional space that seems to extend ever onward to a destination you do not know. And additionally, like, as far as, like, heights, like, you are on the ground floor, but as far as heights go, it seems to extend into the sky almost indefinitely. With there still being, like, an end point that you can see, as you can see the golden light being shed by the lighthouse itself. But the true scope of the dimensions within this building are, to you, currently unfathomable. And as you step further in, the doors close behind you, and another bell can be heard like the one before, as you watch as a figure begins to descend, floating down from the roof of the building. This is a figure that you have met before. They appear as a wizened, old, kind of like human man, with a long, like, gray beard, in brilliant robes almost made of golden light, leaning on a staff that contains a lantern at its top, and wearing a stereotypical, like, pointy wizard's hat, is the Scribe. As they look to you and they go, "You late?"
A lot of things to sort through. Thank you for your patience.
Well, I guess time is relative to you. We have a lot to discuss.
This place, as I understand it, has some of the ancient primordials, I think.
You think or you know?
I'm going through my notes right now. I believe, according to my notes, like this has some, like this is where I'm supposed to find some of the ancient primordials. Am I correct?
You were invited to the meeting, yes.
Sorry, just trying to get my bearings.
Understandable. Most mortal minds are
Basic.
weak. That's a word.
I don't think I ever got your name. I just know you as the Scribe.
Make a persuasion check.
Sure. Okay, persuasion. Not my strongest stats, but that is a 15.
He looks you up and down and he goes, "That is as far as you need to know me."
Fair enough. Get on.
And as you say, lead on, he's just like, that won't be necessary. And he literally moves his hand, and the entire dimensional space in the lighthouse shifts while you stay static. So you watch essentially as like hundreds of rows of bookshelves just sweep past you in almost an instant. And you find yourself, along with the Scribe, in a meeting room, where around a round table where there are 12 seats, only 8 are filled. And he goes, right, of course, no, not everyone could be expected to make it. I guess that is to be, well, one of them obviously won't be here, but come, take a seat. I will let you choose amongst the empties. And you see that there are a wide variety of individuals in this room. Some you recognize and some you don't. And each of their chairs seems to be tailored to them, as the Scribe sits down in a worn old wooden chair that seems to fit his frame almost perfectly as he eases himself into it. The remaining 3 chairs that are not occupied are as follows. There is a chair that is made of worn wood with a nice, like, comfortable cloth covering to it, and it has like a seat cushion. It seems as if it is designed for comfort, and as you like inspect it closer, you notice that it is also reclinable, so you could kick back and relax. Another chair is hard and black, made of a stone you do not recognize, and seeming to be covered with this oily energy that seems to kind of permeate its form and surface, making it kind of almost hard to perceive. And the final chair that is not currently occupied is a throne of blackened glass that seems to glow with a faint bluish energy, and it has these golden fixtures to it to give it the presence of opulence and kind of wealth, as the cushion is made of a velvet material that is like dark and royal purple.
I'll go with the wooden one.
As you sit down in the comfy chair and kick back.
Because my options are oil and shards of glass.
As you sit down and you kick back in the comfy chair, everyone kind of like looks around this table. And I guess I'll go ahead and describe everybody now as we are all here. There is a woman who seems to be a mixture between almost like a high elf and a genasi. She has pale blue skin, and her hair is made of this bluish purple fire, almost indigo or like a lilac color. She is dressed in thin gossamer of blue etched with gold, a fine dress that you would say would be fit for a queen, as a crown of pure gold sits upon her head with gems that glitter like starlight. Next up, you recognize the familiar and fickle form of Samuel Gravely, also known as the Trickster, wearing his traditional purple shirt with a golden vest. This time he's wearing polka-dotted pants with a yellow pattern and green polka dots, and boots that seem to be well-worn and traveled. The Nomad is nowhere to be seen, as you can infer that the seat you are now occupying belongs to him. There is a woman who looks almost halfling in nature, wearing a brilliant and resplendent, like, red dress that seems to fit her form perfectly and accentuate every curve in her body. She is wearing gold bangles on each of her hands, and has, like, very lovely painted fingernails, beautiful makeup, her hair up in a bun, and she has a pink boa that she is kind of twirling with. There is a man who seems to be dwarvish in nature. Goliath in nature. He stands with a great and mighty tower shield, clad in full plate armor. And his eyes seem familiar to you, as they remind you of your own in the early days of your training with the Blood Hunters. They are weary and worn, constantly on the search of a danger that you cannot begin to fathom. Then, of course, you see the familiar form of Tobias Greenfield, wearing his long button-down and overall suspenders. He's got his straw hat on, and he's got a piece of wheat in his mouth, and he's just kind of smiling warmly as the kind of cracked earth around his Genasi skin belies a little bit of, like, warmth, almost like sunlight on a summer's day. You see a dwarven figure in the most gaudy shirt you've ever seen in your life. Like, it's brightly colored. There's, like, tropical flower prints all over it. He's wearing a set of shorts that have, like, almost 100 pockets, and he has flip-flops on for some reason. He's sitting there with a gigantic mug of something that's, like, bubbling and glowing red, and he's just sipping out of it with a brightly colored, like, straw that seems to loop and bend all over itself, and there's, for some reason, an umbrella that's just sitting in the cup.
Just for my note, what's the trickster's name again?
Samuel Gravely.
And Tobias Greenfield, what's his
That's the farmer.
title? The farmer, thank you.
Then you see, again, another familiar figure in the reflection. The pale as glass ice genasi man that stands before you with long hair like white sheets of snow, standing in a humble black robe with skin almost like translucent blue. His eyes like mirrors as he kind of, like, gazes across and kind of seems to be, like, almost like so obviously, like, for those of us out there that have, like, a shitload of, like, ADHD like we do, he is essentially, like, constantly masking. It seems like he is literally matching the energy of every single person that he is looking at. Like, matching their mannerisms, their energy, like, everything. He is essentially, like, as his name would state, a reflection of who he is trying to be around. And the last person you see is a gnomish woman, wearing a bright purple kind of puffy shirt with a leather vest that and corset that seemed to be decked out with pockets containing various tools and implements for tinkering. She has a long flowing kind of, like, dress that for some reason also has pockets. That is, like, a bluish purple color that she has a variety of like herbs and reagents like sticking out of. And she seems to be kind of like be fiddling with something even at this table, like while everyone is kind of like sitting down and like eyeing each other kind of like cautiously or like with a sense of mirth and aloofness. She just seems to be solely engaged in what she's doing. She has paid no attention to you or anyone else since you've walked in.
So, am I right to assume that the chair with all the jagged shards of glass is the Mars?
As the scribe begins to open his mouth, a man strides in, clad in all black armor. He seems humanoid, but what race you would say he was, you cannot guess or begin to tell. He has pale skin and black eyes, and sits with a crown of black jagged glass atop his head, as his armor seems to be made of the same material as the throne you just described, as he eases himself into it and just goes, "As if I would let that bookworm sit in my chair that I have so rightly won." And the scribe goes, "Well, I was about to say we will be getting started, and it looks like the warlord is late, but as usual, you show up when it suits you." And he's like, "I show up when the time is right. After all," and he looks over at you, Merrick, and he goes, "to turn your back on an enemy is weakness."
I have the scores to prove that.
And he leans back and eases himself into his chair. It seems less that he's like relaxed and more that he is literally pushing his back as far as he can into his chair to prevent an attack from behind. As this is the warlord. And the scribe goes, "Very well, I will go around and begin to start the session notes, and we will begin this meeting of the 12 Primordials, 11 Primordials, and the Champion of Pelor." Alright, starting us off, we have the lady, and he gestures to the resplendent woman with the golden crown of starlight that I mentioned before. He goes, "Myself, the scribe." We have the warlord in his presence, and he just kind of nods. He goes, "The trickster," and Samuel just like does like a little flirtatious wave, and he's like, "Ugh." "The nomad Valis Taorn is not present. In his place shall be standing the champion of Pelor." We have the muse, and he gestures to the super hot halfling woman. He goes, "The guardian," as the Goliath man nods slowly and cautiously. He goes, "The farmer," as Tobias kind of like tugs on his overall things. He goes, "The chasm," as the dwarvish man just raises his mug and just begins slurping loudly out of it. He goes, "The reflection," as the reflection kind of snaps to and looks at him and assumes kind of like the scribe's like patient and practiced demeanor and bows very like respectfully. He goes, "And the alchemist," and the person who's tinkering with the stuff just has not stopped, has not begun to pay attention, like is solely absorbed in their work. And he goes, "The alchemist," and they keep like tinkering with the stuff. He goes, "June," and she's like, "Oh, when did everyone get here?" He's like, "We've all been gathering. You have just been absorbed in your work." And she's like, "Oh," and she like looks at it. She's like, "Eh." She goes back to like tinkering with it. He's like, "Can you put it down while we start the meeting?" And she's like, I'm just really close to a breakthrough. I promise I can get it." And the muse just goes, "Honey, it's okay. You don't have to finish it now." And she's like, "Well, I don't have to finish it." "Of course!" And she like makes a few quick modifications, and she's like, "Of course I don't have to finish it. It was already done. I just needed to tighten." "Of course." And the chasm's just like, "All right, I want me to test it?" And she's like, No, I don't. No. Maybe. No. And the scribe's just like, "Can we please convene this meeting for all that is holy in our names?"
It was like this.
the trickster just laughs. He goes, "Oh no! Normally we get nothing done." And the scribe is like, "As much as I would wish to disagree with him, he's not wrong. The only time that we've gathered in such a manner have been before the sundering of the mirrored plane, and then post-sundering we've only gathered twice. First, to seal the maw away, and second, to discuss our plans for the 4th and 5th age of this world. And even then, that didn't get a lot done." And the warlord just, like, slams his fist on the table and he goes, "If you had approved this troop placements as I had demanded, we would have..." It's like, if we had done as you asked, the war for the 4th age would have been dragged out so much longer than it needed to be for the desired outcome that we were trying to achieve. It would have resulted in needless death, and Eclipse would have gained a stronger foothold in the world than they already have. And he just kind of, like, grumbles to himself. And he's like, "First, I say we cede the floor to the person who has the most invested stake in the well-being of the world, Merrick Gilder, champion of Paylor." And they're all just, and, like, about half the Primordials, like, grumble to themselves. And he's just like, "Oh, hush."
Merrick stands.
He's like, before we get into... he looks at you standing, he's like, you can stay... Feel free to stay standing. I just want to let you, as the only person not aware of the purpose of this meeting, the gathering of the Primordials that we have summoned here today is to discuss the current situation of your world vis-a-vis what is to be done with the Maw, as well as what is currently occurring with the organization known as Eclipse, and what our Primordial stake is to be vested in this. We also have another bit of business to discuss that you are welcome to be privy to. Whether or not you understand what we are discussing is a whole nother matter. In the meantime, I cede the floor to you for your suggestion on what should be done.
As one of the people who actually really has to live in the world, as I understand, you are ageless, immortal beings. My organization, the Silver Dawn Inquisition, is looking to root out Eclipse on the continent of Volta. We're trying to dismantle the organization, keep them from seeking world domination and taking hold of the Maw and using it to either control the world or destroy it. They seem to be divided on that front. Some of this I'm sure most of you, if not all, already know. I come beseeching your aid in this to help stop them before the Maw is released.
They all look amongst themselves, and the scribe says, "Is there anything else you'd like to add before you cede the rest of your time?"
Out of character, what else is there?
I mean, what does Merrick feel is important right now? Like, does he want to give finer point details? Does he want to wait for them to ask questions before he answers, like, what he knows?
Yeah, I'll do that just because I feel as though I'm presenting a book report and I didn't read the book.
As they all begin to, like, look amongst themselves, the first to speak up is actually the Guardian, as he looks at you and goes, "The problem I guess we all find in this is that first off, there is a agreement that all celestial entities have signed as of the war that ended the First Age, which states a strict non-interference with the goings-on in the world of mortals. We choose champions and present ourselves to those that we deem worthy, but to act in aggression and violence towards others of our power level and station would be inciting open war amidst divine bodies. So we gods would not be able to intervene directly in the functions of Eclipse, as they are but an arm of the Maw. It would need to be the arm of another god to strike them down.
If you don't want me asking, where are your champions then?
They all kind of like look amongst themselves, and the Guardian is just like, as Primordials, specifically, while we are considered divine entities and stand at the equal strength of gods, we, as part of the agreement, are not allowed to choose champions. Rather, we act as intermediaries for the gods. We find desirable individuals that would meet the gods' will at the current time and give them our suggested individuals. I believe, and he looks over across like the table, he's like, I believe the trickster is technically your caseworker. And the trickster goes, I did pass your name along to Paylor, although I did give him a couple other suggestions that I thought were kind of funnier, but I guess he wanted to go with the one that actually made a difference. Fuck me, I guess.
Appreciate it, I guess. Thanks.
And he goes, the Nomad handled business on Cord's behalf as well, as Ool. And many of the rest of us have chosen other champions throughout the world. And Trickster raises his hand again. He goes, by the way, gonna go ahead and apologize to you in advance, Merrick. Aaron Melianadel was absolutely my doing.
Merrick just groans. Like he has like that face from Soul Calibur with Excalibur.
Yeah. And the Guardian just looks at him because he's been interrupted twice. He's just like, we all act to find gods or find champions that would fit the will of a god at any given time. That being said, we present our list of candidates. We don't exclusively work for a single god. Sometimes one god will contract many of us to find various champions for them that could fit their will at any given time, and we submit our findings. Inevitably, the choice at the end of the day is up to the god who shall carry out their will. And it is not just champions we do either. It is also sentinels and heralds that we work to find.
Sentinel and heralds? I don't think I'm familiar with that phrase.
Heralds are the speakers of gods. They are the voice of the god in the realm. They work to... Their primary objective is to gather new members to the god's church and following, to act as a speaker for the god's will in the world, or even to be a diplomat and intermediary on behalf with other champions, heralds, or sentinels to represent their god in diplomatic matters. Normally a champion will be a chief diplomat, but if, as you know, there's only one champion chosen per god, usually per age, but sometimes drastic measures. He goes, so what can happen is that a herald will act as a intermediary on a god's behalf because the champion isn't available, as they are tied up with something that the god considers a greater priority at the moment. I believe currently with your god, they only have one champion and currently no heralds. As for Sentinel, and they all kind of get like apprehensive at that one. He goes, it is a position with a bit more nuance. It is not something that we or any god will openly discuss with a mortal, especially a champion, as to the nature of what a sentinel is meant to do. Sentinels are typically just told their goals and objectives by the god directly, and then they are turned loose, as it were. They are not someone who openly talks of what their work is, nor is it ever transcribed in history as to what a sentinel is meant to do.
Right. I think I understand then.
And the chasm speaks up and he goes, so basically you're asking us to intervene, which we're not allowed to do, and basically take over when it comes to fighting the Eclipse and the Maw. Is that my understanding of everything right now?
I'm not asking you to take over this fight. I'm asking you to lend an aid. The Maw is one of you. Surely that puts some stake in the fight for you all.
They all kind of look apprehensive at that, and the chasm just goes, one of us. That's a funny one.
As I understand it, the Nomad described him as a brother of sorts.
Kid, we're all family. We were all forged at the same time at the same nexus of creation. We may be family, but doesn't necessarily mean we're all on equal standing, nor that any of us really like each other or give a shit about each other.
So a family. Yeah.
He just shrugs that. He's like, eh. He sips very loudly on his drink. He just. Dang it! I really wish I actually had a cup of stuff with a straw. But just like. Just imagine that sound you get when you like have the bottom of a milkshake and you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to drink it through the ice.
Yeah. And he's just like, so while he's one of ours, he's not necessarily, our problem. Besides, all that time trapped away in his prison, he hasn't necessarily been affected by the swaying of the world, the moving of the ley lines, and all that other shit that's left us kind of weak. Suffice it to say, even if all 11 of us teamed up against him, a good portion of us would die.
But he'd be stopped.
Yeah, not necessarily killed, but stopped, yeah.
And if he isn't stopped, what's the outcome?
Your world as you know it ceases to exist.
And you 11 are okay with that?
They all just kind of look amongst each other and like this time the one that speaks up is the Muse, and she goes, the nature of our existence is that we endure. If your material plane becomes destroyed, then the Maw just gains a new domain. And if he decides to expand his influence to the outer planes, then we can still even move beyond his reach. And while many other planes would be destroyed in the end, once there is nothing and there is just the 12 of us yet again, then yet again we endure, and we would just move on to the next.
So your plan is to just avoid the problem until you have to deal with it. And even then, just turn a blind eye and just keep running.
The warlord speaks at this time. Running? No. The plan, as it has always been, is to outlast and keep equilibrium. Each of us is representative of a specific aspect of primordial essence and a specific reflection. And as he says reflection, like the reflection kind of like chimes up, and he just waves him like, shut up. And he's just like, a specific reflection of mortal minds. There are 12 of us because there have to be 4 elements, 3 alignments, each representing an aspect of the mind. He goes, I represent fire. But as you would understand, the evil of fire, the ever-consuming, ever-destroying, crushing, and burning all in its wake, until naught is left but ash and cinder. And the lady speaks up and she goes, I am the good aspect of fire. Light, warmth, life. The ability to create and ever flourish, prospering and renewing. And the scribe speaks up, he goes, I am the neutral aspect of fire. Invention, intelligence, the kindling of the mind, and the reflection of one's psyche. Ever-expanding mental escapes. And the warlord speaks up again, he goes, there are 12 of us because there have to be. 3 of us represent one element, each in different aspects, and each of us has our own individuality as a reflection of the mind. The maw represents water, the evil of it, the cruel, drowning, crushing, ever inevitable. So long as we all exist in balance, we shall always exist in balance.
I'd like to hear from the Guardian, if you don't mind.
The Guardian speaks up and goes, he is correct. I am the stone that stands. I am the fulcrum and the balance. I preserve the peace between all. I have stood at the gates of Avernus, at the edge of the blood war, and I have ensured that no demon nor devil have gained side in their sway, that their conflict is everlasting, so that they might not turn their combined efforts to the heavens and cry out against the good. I have been the fulcrum and linchpin in that conflict for eons, and I shall continue to hold my post against both evil and good.
So the maw escaping and wreaking untold havoc onto a world. That's the charge of a Guardian.
He looks at you and he goes, the Guardian is a title that makes it easy for you all to understand. My job is preserving balance, not protecting.
Mine is.
He looks at you and he goes, well, then it seems that it is your job to protect, then.
My allies and I cannot do this alone. I've seen the maw. Back on my first mission with this team, we saw a vision of it. Why us?
The trickster kind of like chuckles at that and just goes, oh, Merrick. Don't get me wrong, you're special. You are special. I am not discounting your ability, your growth, your command over an entire organization, your championship of Palor, your redemption of your curse. But you're not the only one that we've got on the board, and you're not the only special person out there in the world. You're not the only one who's seen the maw, and you're not the only one that's preparing for it. Some people out there preparing to welcome it with open arms. And then there's others out there that are looking all too kindly at stabbing all of its eyes out. Then there's others that are content to just protect their people and let it all blow over. There are many champions out there in the world right now, and a bunch of them are gearing up for the final fight. You're not the only piece we've got on the board, buddy. But don't get me wrong, you're not a pawn. You're a knight. Or a king. I don't really understand chess. You know, too many pieces, too many moves. But we've got a lot out there, and a lot is riding on humanity's success. So we've
go ahead.
We've tipped our favor in the scales that we want things to play out in, because obviously, like, while we can't directly intervene, and while it doesn't necessarily bother us if you win or lose, the Maw destroying the entire world is a lot less fun for all of us. It means less worshippers, less people out there living their lives and, you know, giving rise to the inventions that we breathe into them. We've got a stake in your survival, but if there's, you know, absolution and complete destruction, then that's still equilibrium and balance, in a way. So, if you survive, and the forces of good and evil band together against this greater evil, and the world achieves its equilibrium, great. If the world is destroyed and devoured, its knowledge and collective reason consumed, not as great, but there's less things in the world for the Maw to draw power from, and less things in the world for us to draw power from, so equal footing is still achieved.
You mentioned that there were others.
Okay.
Where are they?
Oh. He goes, am I allowed to tell him? Am I allowed to tell him? Is that a thing that we're allowed to do? Or are we, you know, is that not okay? And they're like, he can know. He's like, oh, goody. Well, funny thing is, everywhere. Literally everywhere. We've got champions in Varianus, Cragseat, Volta, Darius. Oh, and Eloran. Fun little playground, that.
So am I just supposed to put out an ad in the paper saying, attention everywhere, looking for champions to help kick the Maw in its teeth?
No, not at all. You and everyone else out there will do what they do, and they'll either win or they'll lose. I mean, you've already crossed paths with 2 champions of Volta in your travels.
Yeah, I think one of them shot me in the back.
Yeah. Well, I guess, I keep forgetting about him because he's dead. I guess 3 then. You know, good old Valdon Svensson, Cord's Chosen, and yourself, not to mention Octavian, the former champion of Uhl. Did we... And he looks over the table. Actually, real quick, did we ever choose a new one? And they're like, yeah, he's already out there. He's like, oh, good.
Valdon's... who's that again?
Valdon Svensson was my buddy Adam's character who accompanied y'all in High Rock in the first few arcs.
The Warlock.
Yep, champion of Apollo.
Thank you. Didn't realize he was a champion.
Oh, yeah. We've got tons of people out there, each serving a different master. Some good, some bad, some despicably evil.
Are you saying you have to join forces with the evil in order to stop the Maw?
Not necessarily join forces. They'll just kind of do their own thing if you leave them be.
Then is there any advice, guidance that you can offer?
Don't die?
You have to understand, I felt like I was invited here to learn something, and all I'm learning is, you're on your own.
The scribe looks at you and he goes, "It is... You were invited here, yes. But there were multiple reasons as to why we did that. The first, of course, being is that so that you could plead your case. Of the champions of Volta, you have the most stake and the most sway in what is and isn't in your homeland. And you are not the only person we have invited. Each of the champions were considered, but only those with the greatest stake in their respective continents have been given a call. Thus far, we've already held meetings with 3 of the other great champions, and we are still deciding on whom of Varianus will be invited here to join us. But we have already spoken with the champions of Darius and Cragseat and Eloran, and they are understanding of what is to come.
And what is that? The Mars awakening and humanity's fights for survival?
It is the inevitability, yes. As it stands, we had hoped that Edmund Hargrove's plan would be stopped, but it has not slowed momentum in the slightest. Even now, with the death of two of his inner council, one of them, of course, defecting, and the death and defection of 2 separate principals, his plan, if anything, still gains momentum. The Maw will be released. That much is inevitable. And when it is, the only thing we can do is invest as hard as we have in the success of your race.
I understand that.
The other 2 reasons that we have summoned you here, however, are more of a personal matter.
Merrick just sort of cocks an eyebrow at that as he takes his seats.
There's a book that is in your possession. One that has existed even though it should not. We have been trying to find it for some time, and now that it has passed its way into your possession, we ask that you relinquish it to us.
Merrick takes out the book. This book means a lot to you, Ben.
It means a lot to many people, and it is very dangerous to be out in the wild.
It's dangerous to be left out in the wild, and it's in my possession. Then suddenly I have something I can barter with. Merrick puts the book on the table and slides it over to the scribe. But I'm not like that. If it's dangerous, it's yours.
He takes it, and in a flash of like golden fire, it vanishes. But you notice that it was not like destroyed. It just seems to have moved somewhere within this space. And he goes, I appreciate that you understand that while you have a means of bargaining, that the danger of knowledge, as much as its benefit, can sway in either direction. And while you, yes, could have used this as a bargaining chip, your selfless devotion to the greater good and doing things through just and honorable means is one of the reasons that Paylor has chosen you as champion.
Trying to remember some of my better habits.
He goes, yes, I must admit the change in character I saw in you was quite interesting for a while. It was definitely something I was invested in. I was wondering how long you would compromise your moral standing in order to serve a greater good beyond yourself at the cost of your own moral high ground. But seeing as you are now seeking to achieve the same level of good without the compromise of character, I must say is a more interesting arc for you to pursue, and I'm interested in seeing how the story plays out.
Is that all the mortals are for you beings? Stories?
No. To each of us it's different. As we have said, we each represent a different thing. To me, you are all stories. Some brief but fulfilling, others long and tedious, and many full of surprising change that even I myself cannot predict. For the lady, you are children, those that she must foster and nurture, care for, and watch them grow. For the warlord, you are soldiers, pawns to die and fight in endless wars.
Thanks.
He just grunts at you. He's like, for the trickster, you are all of a similar nature to the warlord, but not soldiers, more toys, playthings. Some of you more complex than others, and others he can wind up just as easily as anything else. For the nomad, and it seems like he pauses here for a minute, as if he's trying to find the right words. For the nomad, you all are potential. Pure and raw, you have the makings of greatness, and in any way he could guide, he can lead you down a path that would either be of great terror or of great good. For the muse, you are inspiration for her and for you. It is a mutually beneficial relationship as she inspires others and they inspire her in turn. For the guardian, each of you is a shield against something.
Merrick smiles at that one.
Not necessarily a means of protection, but you, in your own ways, your morals and ideals are either rigid or flexible. You stand for... Every individual stands for something that will not budge. And for that, he is that aspect. Whether it be the rigid hunger and pursuit of dark and dangerous knowledge that drives you ever further down a path, or the stance of morals and valor that lead you to stand between yourself and the innocent. No matter what your pursuit, everyone has something that is unbreakable.
And the other reason you called me here.
Oh, he was just gonna keep going down the list.
Oh, sorry. I zoned out for like half a second. I thought the list was done.
Oh no, he's still got 4 more.
Oh, by all means then.
He's like the farmer. You are all seeds. Much like the lady and the nomad, you have the potential to grow and foster into something great, whether the fruit be sweet or bitter. You shall become something greater. For the chasm, and the chasm interrupts me, goes, you're all just temptation. Each and every one of you, if given something of great and terrible power, no matter who it is, everyone's gonna cave and use it for something. The righteous use it to be righteous, the evil use it to be wicked, and the neutral use it to crave a dominion for themselves out in the world. No one's above temptation, and no matter what happens, a strong enough weapon in anyone's hands will become a dangerous deterrent to all who stand against them.
Like the main scales.
He laughs at that. And the scribe just goes, yes, to the reflection you are all mirrors. Potential of what he could be, what you could be. Nothing more, nothing less. And for the alchemist, and they have already gone back to tinkering on their project and not paying attention, he's like, projects. You're all projects. That's self-explanatory.
You know, I'm working on these, like, elixirs of action surge. I haven't gotten it down, like, quite yet.
Immediately she peeks up. She's like, elixirs of action surge. As in,
Yeah, like, right now, they're, like, having this nasty little side effect where, like, the heart kind of goes into cardiac arrest.
do you have notes?
Yeah, right here, like...
She immediately takes
right
a bit of it, like just spreads the whole thing out, and you watch as, like, she's, like, scratching out some of your formulas and equations, and she's writing over them with her own, like, and as she scratches them out, they aren't, she's not, like, scribbling them out, like, with ink. As she scratches them out, like, they're literally removed from the page.
I don't think I have a good potion yet, but I think we just invented the EpiPen.
It takes her about, like, a couple minutes. She's like, done.
What the fuck?
And folds all the papers back up and hands it over to you.
Fuck yeah, that's my work. Shit.
Yeah, and as you're looking it over, the formulas she's come up with are... You weren't too far off. Like, you and Thulnoggin were getting pretty close. It was just about the ratios as well as the brew time that were causing the adverse side effects. You all were brewing it for about 1.5 seconds too long. And so it was steeping for a little too long, concentrating, like, the negative side effects. With her new formula and the new ratios, it will have the appropriate brew time, and additionally, like, it will present a color change that will let you know when it's going to be bad. And now the only side effect is once you take the potion, it will give you an action surge, but then at the end of your turn, you will suffer a point of exhaustion.
Well, this is a lot better than a heart attack. Thank you.
She's just like, yeah, no problem. I always enjoy a little bit of a challenge.
I mean, we will have cracked it eventually, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, no, of course.
Thanks.
And the scribe
I
just like...
the notes.
The scribe's like, the other reason we invited you here is because of all the mortal champions we have out in the world, you are the one who has done the most for us. And so, while we cannot offer you our direct assistance, giving something to you was not out of the question at the start of this discussion. Already, and he looks across the table, he's like, some of us have sworn that something is to be owed. And we shall offer boons to you. But I will give you one last chance to truly plead your case to the others. As he looks at you and he goes, I ask you this not as... And he thinks for a second, he goes, you asked before what my name was. And the other Primordials, like, get apprehensive at that, and he goes, there is the title by which I am known. There is the name which makes sense. And there is the name I am known by. You know one of these. And I am willing to offer you the deepest of these. But the only thing I ask in return is that when you plead your case now, you don't speak as a commander of an organization, as a champion of Pelor, as a blood hunter, as an agent of Platinum Watch, as a soldier, as a being. Speak as Merrick Gilder, the man who has broken gods and has rallied more people to the side of good than the entirety of the Platinum Wardens that came before him. And he gestures for you to stand again and speak your case.
Let me think for a second. Holy shit.
Yeah, I know. It's a tall order.
Yeah. I don't know what you all can offer. To be honest, I wasn't looking for direct aid. Whatever weapons or boons you can grant would be deeply appreciated. I just... Ignoring the fact that I'm a leader now, all I want to do is keep people safe. That's all I ever wanted to do. I just want to keep people safe, and the people who would abuse others to be stopped. That's all this boils down to, really. Help me keep the people I love safe, and keep the world from sundering.
Okay. You're going to be making 3 persuasion checks.
Can I guidance myself?
Absolutely.
Okay, here comes the first one.
So, hold on.
Yeah, okay.
With this first one, make it with advantage.
Drop my D4. No. Okay. Thank God for advantage on that. 24.
Okay. For the next persuasion check, just roll flat.
Guidance. 20.
And for the last persuasion check, roll flat.
Eh. 23.
Okay. The lady, the farmer, the alchemist all stand and offer you not like offer, like they're not like handing this over. They put a token on the table like where they're sitting. The scribe, the muse, the guardian, and the reflection all stand and do the same. And lastly, the chasm and the trickster stand and do the same. The warlord, seeing that they are the only one not standing and offering, grumbles one last time and stands and offers a token. And as you look across this table at 10 primordials who have offered you a boon in the time that you would need it, you look down at the area in front of you and see that there is one additional token that has been offered at the seat that you have claimed, which is the seat of the nomad, Valis Taorn.
Thank you, Valis.
Uh,
Friend or foe?
and they each let you know what they will be offering. The scribe tells you that in exchange for returning the book and in exchange for the good you have done in allowing them to reclaim the mirrored plane, as well as the axe you have driven against Ball and kind of like the stabilization of Pandemonium at the current helm, he will offer you full unrestricted access to his library here at the Lighthouse. That any of your party can go through. It comes with one condition.
Mm-hmm.
That condition being that stored within the Lighthouse are records of all things. Under no circumstances is anyone here to look in their book or the books of anyone they care about. To know the future is a dangerous thing, and to know how a story is going to end often destroys the stories of others around them without even knowing.
Understood.
The lady offers the only thing that she can. She offers that in your time of need, the other champions of the world shall be rallied, and you will not have to concern yourself with fighting a war on many fronts. You only need focus on Volta.
Thank you.
The Warlord offers the only thing he truly can. He offers his name and a promise. The promise is that he will accept, if you choose to do this before the fighting the Maw or anything else, you can gain this boon. If you choose not to, it is something that can be pursued in the end game, in the epilogue. He will accept one challenge from any one member of your party. Upon facing them, if he is defeated or if he succeeds, they shall still be granted a boon. However, if he is defeated, the strength of the boon will be greater. And the name that he offers is his true name, so you may understand what that entails.
Okay.
The true name of the Warlord is One Who Forges Worth.
Merrick is definitely going to take him up on that.
Again, it can only be one of you.
Oh yeah, Merrick's going to be the one taking him up on that.
Okay. The Trickster offers you his greatest gift. He offers you more time.
Can you elaborate on that?
As you know, the last time you were trapped within the Trickster's palace emits the air elemental plane, time moved very differently. Things kind of moved a little funky, almost like Feywild rules. So if he is offering you more time, it either means that in a moment of crisis he is going to give you all more time to complete your objective, or he is going to delay the deadline of which the Maw will return. You don't necessarily know. He just said more time.
Thank you, Trickster.
The Nomad is not here, but the token, you can assume, is his offering. A IOU to be claimed at a later date. The Muse offers inspiration. She shall give any one of your party the answer to one question that burns most on their mind. And I will say this. Technically speaking, yes, each of you could ask a question. Or if you give it all over to one person, they could ask a very detailed question. I will say this, if you're all going to ask a question, you will want to do it at the same time, because once the first question has been asked, that kind of initiates it. So if no one else is there, like, you're going to be shit out of luck.
Writing this down.
The Guardian offers something that he swears, or has sworn that he will not do. The Guardian offers protection. He states that while he is sworn not to interfere, he will ensure that while you attempt to complete your objective in the final battle, there shall be no interference from outside forces. You all shall be able to face the Maw alone, without anyone interfering with your battle.
Okay.
The farmer offers growth. He offers you a tincture that he says if one of you consumes, it will provide great strength. And I will go ahead and, like, out of game tell you what this entails. This potion basically can either grant you one of three things. It can unlock one of your story feats right then and there, if you haven't already unlocked all of them. It can grant you an immediate level up. Or it can increase any one of your stats by 5, and this goes past the maximum. These points can also be distributed if you don't want to increase any one stat by 5. You can increase 5 stats by 1, 1 stat by 2, another stat by 2, and another stat by 1. However you decide to divvy up your distribution. But it's 5 points, and they can go above your current maximum.
Damn.
Yerp.
Like, is that a permanent +5 or just a temporary?
Permanent. Same with the level up, same with the story feat. It would be permanently unlocked.
I might take that and put that in my strength. God damn.
It's whatever you decide to do, this has been given to you, but you can choose who in your party gets it. Merrick getting all these gifts. Man, I am a selfless and righteous man. All these gifts from God's mine.
I mean, to be fair, Merrick's surrounded by fucking random Eastworm, like, guy who's, like, practically a demigod. Tala, who just, like, one-shots most things with her smites. Yusa, who's a Swiss Army knife. And fucking Avok.
Fair enough. The Chasm offers you probably the greatest gift of all. And he states that it is because he wants to see whether you'll succeed or fail, and because his gift is in his nature. He will forge for each of you, every single member of your party, an aspect of the foregone just for you. You will offer him one item that you have in your possession, either magical, armor, or weaponry, and he will take it beyond what it can achieve on its own.
So, he offers to forge us an aspect of the foregone?
An aspect of the foregone that will be just for you. So for Merrick's, it can only be used by Merrick. For Rando's, it can only be used by Rando. For Tala's, it can only be used by Tala. Avok's can only be used by Avok, and Yusa's can only be used by Yusa.
Shit. Right, I'll keep that in mind.
the reflection as just a sounding board and a mirror for most things cannot truly offer you anything that you wouldn't be able to offer yourself. And so he offers a gift of insight. Basically, in any moment of doubt or uncertainty, you may roll an insight check on yourself, and you will gain an answer to a problem you are facing.
Gotcha.
And the alchemist says that her potion was already payment enough. You've already gotten your boon out of her. A potion of action surge is a lot.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I completely agree. America's gonna be using that shit sparingly.
Yeah, she says that you are her gift to you is that she is not going to patent that. And yeah, so you have now gained 11 boons with which to fight the Maw, many of which can be burnt immediately or left sparingly.
Thank you all. Truly.
And the scribe bows his head and says, "Thank you for being our champion of champions. I wish you safe travels on your return to the material plane, and you may call on these boons at any time. Farewell, Merrick Gilder, and may your Silver Dawn Inquisition carry great victory in the coming war." And with that, the bell chimes one more time, and you find yourself back in your office. It seems as if no time has passed. The only thing that lets you know that your adventure was fruitful is the fact that you are missing the book. There are notes for a solution of Action Surge in your pouch, and a potion from the gardener, as well as tokens from each of the Primordials present, and you assume that once the gifts have been used, they will be spent.
Fuck.
So just an FYI of what that means, like, if you literally take those, like, documents down to Thulnagan and hand them over right now, the token that you have around your neck of the alchemist will vanish. Because
Gotcha.
you have spent her gift.
Gotcha. I'll get back to you on what I'm going to do with those boons, because I just need to enter the restroom real fast.
Oh yeah, no, sure thing. I am going to also run to the restroom, take a brief intermission, so I can... and we'll reconvene here in a second so we can continue this and find out what we're going to do.
Back.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back, man.
All right. Um. So, did you want to go over using the boons now, or did you want to wait?
I think for now I'm going to wait. I might use the Farmer's Boon and the Alchemists.
Like, go ahead and burn those now?
I might.
Okay.
Just to get those potions of action surge going out. And the only spell that can like undo a point of exhaustion is like a restoration spell, or is that just greater?
It's a long rest, or I believe a restoration spell. I can't remember if it's lesser or greater.
I'll double check that. But I'm just going to. I know I'm definitely going to want that +5. I just don't know if I'm going to just throw that in strength, or maybe put in a con or wisdom. Just to get more well-rounded, or just to make my hits hit harder.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing I don't know for sure. But the only... So I'm going to hold on to the rest of the boons for now. If I decide to burn the farmers before the next session, I'll let you know. But the only other thing Merrick wants to get done is start sending word to Gareth that he would like to have a meeting.
Okay. Seeing
Tell him
as...
to bring Janice as well.
Seeing as we are only about an hour, well, about like an hour and 40 minutes into this recording, minus intermissions and explanations, and I do believe, let me go ahead and pull up all my files. I do believe that Yuza and Avox ran for a little while longer.
I don't mind ending mine a little earlier, though.
Sure, we can handle this Gareth shit if you want to do it right now. Theirs ran for 3 hours, so you've got 1 extra hour if you want it.
I think I'll handle that later, just because I got some things I need to handle today before the other session tonight.
Of course. So then we'll say your letter gets written out, and if I remember correctly, the original plan was to tackle it after Clan Wars.
Yeah.
So we'll say that you send out your correspondence to Gareth at the Platinum City, and over the next few weeks you might get a response.
Neato.
All right, and with that we wrap Merrick's story, a story of diplomacy and gathering information, building bonds, and getting some answers to questions, if not all. As with technically with the boon from the Scribe, you can get all questions answered.
Oh, yeah.
And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap this session. Thank you very much for everybody for tuning in. As always, I've been your Dungeon Master Maniac C. But the real star of my show is my players. So without further ado, let's give a big warm round of applause to Storm Sage 13 for beating God.
Ah!
Look forward.
I did it.
Look forward to seeing you all in the next session, where we will be tackling Talorando stuff. And flashing back to the outcomes of Yuza and Avok's quests, as well as the outcomes of Merrick's quest. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and as always, safe travels, and always keep the story in your heart, I guess. I don't know. I'm bad at outros. Bye-bye.
Stay hydrated, folks.